G'day Pittsburgh Steelers fans, Matty P here with another episode of Steelers Touchdown Under. Today I'm talking about the Steelers defense, and they are looking primed and ready to go through training camp. Let's get into it. So by the time you guys watch this, you'll be embarking on day 2 of training camp. We've heard from Mike Tomlin. I don't know whether everyone's listening to that press conference, but Mike Tomlin's on a good press conference. Said a lot, didn't really say anything. Pretty typical Mike Tomlin in that regard. And there was a bunch of player interviews as players rocked up to training camp, basically sort of saying how their process had gone from OTA and then to a mini camp all the way through now the summer into Steelers training camp at Latrobe. Now, as the thumbnail, if you've clicked the title of this image already and seen it, or unless you got the notification, just hit it straight away, which we know some of our loyal fans did. Fantastic. But if you saw that image, you saw I picked a bunch of defensive guys. And so that's what I wanted to talk about on today's show, mainly the defensive guys. And they're looking primed and ready, as I said in the title of the show. Steelers defense looking primed and ready. There are a couple of different guys. I'm actually going to talk through some of these images as a way to prompt it. I listened to a bunch of interviews. Been a pretty crazy day for me. I was hoping to get this out a little bit earlier on, but just obviously we're getting it out now, so that's the main thing. All right, so first thing I noticed, and we'll talk about a few things as well. I'm not just going to talk about how they're looking, but you look at here, Jonathan Marshall. He was looking pretty good. He was looking pretty big next to most blokes, looking pretty fit. Guy was on the practice squad last year, fighting for an interior defensive line position. Kind of interesting from that perspective. Then you got Alex Highsmith. Now, Alex Highsmith's always looking a bit beefy the last couple of years, but this year I felt he looked a bit more athletic. I wonder whether he sort of went after last year. Look, I had a lot of size. Maybe I lost a little bit of speed. His sack numbers went down. So I just sort of thought it was interesting with Alex Highsmith. Just looked a bit fitter overall, a bit more cut. And that's kind of a theme that you'll see with a lot of the different Steelers defensive players. Just got a bit of a smile on his face. As I say, just looking leaner. Kind of interesting. Beanie Bishop, he was kind of looking a bit bigger than what I thought. This guy's about like 5'9", 5'10". People talked about him being in the late 170s. I think he's more in the mid 180 pounds now. Be interesting to see what he actually lists at come the season for a height, weight, and that sort of thing. Obviously, very, very quick guy from a speed perspective. But I can't wait to see Beanie Bishop in action. You can see him there with the helmet. Jonathan Marshall and Alex Highsmith together. That's what I mean. Like, Alex Highsmith's a big bloke at 6'5". He's usually about 250 pounds plus. And then you look at Jonathan Marshall, he's a big bloke in there. Obviously weighs a bit more, but the height wise, he's kind of one of the sneaky big guys on the Steelers defense. That's good old Russie. Then you've got, I thought this was funny. I took a screenshot of this. I'm going to use this later on in the season. Look at Cameron Johnston, my fellow countryman from Australia. He looks like just like a local dad walking next to these players. It's so funny. I freaking love this. It's so good. It's one of my favorite images. Could be end up being one of my favorite images of the season, even though the season hasn't started. I just love this. But look at Alex Highsmith. Look at these ripped muscles there. I mean, all these guys are ripped, but he just looks really jacked, really lean. Great. Thanks, Steelers, for the ad. This is Tyler Murray, one of the other linebackers. TJ, a little bit of maybe gut to some people on that. That's a very tight shirt, but he looked pretty trim too. TJ's looking mean and green, and they actually talked about how his training program goes and weightlifting. And one of TJ's responses was, "It's not about me trying to hit personal bests, personal records in the gym. It's about learning from the mistakes of my older brother. In fact, we want to make sure that I'm able to play a lot of snaps. My best ability is my availability." Even TJ is saying that. So he's looking a bit leaner too. They also asked him with that because he's going to play nickel linebacker as well, nickel backer, and he sort of went, well, we'll see what happens. I think you'll see a bit of that from Highsmith as well. So you should see how lean and mean some of these Steelers outside linebackers are looking compared to maybe a bit heavier last year. But they could weigh in at the same thing. I just think they're looking really cut. For Hoko and Warren, I know Warren's not a defensive player, but he was looking ripped and ready to go. He was primed through his little mini press conference. And for Hoko as well, he looks like he's trimmed up too. So this Steelers definitely looking good. Ogunjobi's looking athletic. Look at those arms. Look at these tree trunk legs. These guys are looking, as I say, it just looks better. There's Nate Herbig. He's an offensive guy. Look at there for Hoko carrying his bags down the stairs. And these bags are light compared to some of the weights they do. But yeah, just kind of interesting. Jalen Warren. Want to get to some of the other blokes. Dante Jackson, he had an awesome press conference, how keen he was to play alongside Joey Porter. It's kind of like he was recognizing Joey Porter as the number one man in the room. I am so pumped for Dante Jackson's season this year. I wanted Dante Jackson to the Steelers 2 years ago out at LSU when he was 26. Played with a couple of years for the Carolina Panthers at that point. It was 3 or 4 seasons. So keen to see him on the Steelers this year. Steelers fans are going to be really happy with this trade for Deontay. Trust me. A lot of people worried about who's going to be wide receiver too. This guy will do so much on defense. He'll make some plays. Atlanta Roberts. Now, he rocked up in these overalls and a cowboy hat. He had one of the longest interviews that's available on the Steelers website and Steelers YouTube channel. He was talking about being from Texas and being prepared to work and the linebackers and the development and everyone keen to just be really mature. And one of the things that he sort of focused on, one of the things I really picked up in what he was saying was about on 4th and 1, having that chemistry and having communicated is going to mean a lot for this Steelers defense in this season to come. He also said he probably came into last year's training camp a little bit all prepared for the amount of contact and tackling. He was keen for it. He wasn't expecting it. So that's kind of interesting too, because we saw he had one of his best career years in the NFL last year with the Steelers, and he kind of had to with the amount of snaps he played, including in coverage. So he's coming in primed in year 2. I'm loving this because this guy's probably by the midway through the season, particularly if Holcomb's back, and Holcomb was put on one of the pup lists as well. That's another piece of news coming out of training camp. But Atlanta Roberts could well be number 2 or number 3. And as number 3, he'd be one of the best number 3 linebackers in the league. So loving this. He looks jacked and ready to go as well. Then there's Ryan Watts. Almost put him in the thumbnail. Ryan Watts, guy out of Texas, is going to be a really important on special teams, safety, cornerback hybrid, fighting there with Darius Rush and Corey Trice. He's a big bloke too, and he's looking ripped at 6'3" and about 206, 208 pound. He's looking good to go. There's Cordell Patterson. He's on the pup list as well. There's Dante Jackson again. There's Atlanta Roberts there. Looks like he's wearing nothing under that. Looks like he's like, Thunder, the Magic Mike going on. Keanu Benson. There's a few mentions of Benson. Benson had a good press conference. He looks super relaxed. Bernie, I think, put in the comments in one of my other videos that Alan Saunders from All Steelers Talk or Steelers Now, whichever one it is. I know that whatever his one is, they copied my video on Dejan Edwards. But anyway, the Keanu Benson was basically looking really, really lean, really, really mean and fighting machine kind of thing. He also was really seemed really like relaxed and mature about things. Not that he wasn't last year, but you could tell last year he came in, he was big, hulking. This year was sort of talking about he knew what to expect. He's really calm, just listens to music, chats to his mates, just a real chillness to it. So this when I say like primed and ready, it's not just about being jacked. He just seemed primed and ready for training camp. They asked him about particularly, I'll try and pull up one of the other images. Yeah, this one, he looked good here. He was saying that, they asked him, could the Steelers unit get back to being one of the top sack teams in the NFL? He said yes. He said one of the things that they're doing a lot more of is having player-only meetings or player-led meetings, and he feels that's helping everyone get on board and do the same thing. They asked him about his chemistry with Leal. He talked about, he didn't really work out with him in the offseason, but they definitely communicate from time to time. Benton he's acting like a guy that's been doing this a lot longer than he's going into his second year. Man, Steelers love their ads. Deshaun Elliott. We'll try and pull up the other picture of Deshaun Elliott. There's Najee. There's Landon, doing the lap pull downs there. There's Dante Jackson for you again. Roman Wilson. Benton on the e-bike. E-scooter. Don't fall off, mate. Benton again. There, Deshaun Elliott. Now, Deshaun Elliott's, got the yoga mat and the foam roller. Heaps of guys have foam rollers. That was another trend that was really interesting amongst the Steelers guys rocking up for camp. But Deshaun Elliott was he's one of my favorites. He's probably my favorite offseason pickup, even more than Queen, even more than Frazier. I can't wait to see him and Minka combining. But he looking prime and athletic, man. And that's important because he might have to play a bit of slot corner potentially in how they line up. So it was cool to see Deshaun Elliott looking ripped and fit and ready to go. I really liked that. I was really, really keen on that. Mark Robb, he looked pretty good too. A lot of us have him on the roster bubble, but he looked ready to go. Looks like he means business. I think he realizes that this could be it if he can't perform in training camp. So that'll be a big thing to see. Corey Trice is in there. Big training camp for him after sitting out the year. Herbig's there. He looks like the same as he did last year. Herbig always looks like he's on holiday, Nick Herbig. He's just always chill and happy to be here, like his brother Nate. I don't know. Like, I just love it. Like, there's just this, like, real calmness to it. Justin Fields there. There's a bit of talk about his snaps. I think there's a lot of hullabaloo there. Dante Jackson giving that press conference. Patrick Queen, he looks beefed, ready to go, just like he did when he had the day that he joined inside the contract in that suit. Looking like busting out of the suit. So say these players looking, I reckon the Steelers are looking fitter than they have in other years. And the Steelers haven't always looked like the fittest team in the league. There's Matakavich. He knows what to expect coming into the Steelers, having played for a number of years. Again, Patrick Queen just looking ready to go. He just means business, man. This guy's like going to be a massive leader on the defense alongside Haywood, Fitzpatrick, TJ Watt. It's just Steel fans. We're lucky. If you like defense, you're very lucky. I love this image because like of how small Warren is height wise. Obviously, he's jacked. Like a little cannonball, I call him, like an anvil. But TJ Watt, look, I say TJ is looking lean, but TJ is 6'5", so he can be sneaky. He can have like a lot of lean muscle and be incredibly strong, which we know he is with the sorts of tackles that he goes up against and being double teamed. There's Dante Jackson, as I say, he means absolute business. Deshaun Elliott there, again, like he was so happy in his opening press conference. You cannot wipe the smile off this guy's face. This guy's been smiling since the moment he came into the Steelers organization. It just makes you really happy. Same with Landon Roberts. Look at this face. He's primed and ready to go. It's quite funny. He was talking about the way he was talking about Texas. And then you've got Ryan Watson there again. So like this pretty much wraps us to the end of these photos. But like from my perspective, this is safety Nathan Metters as well, who's one of the sort of on that, probably a likely cut candidate, but interesting to see how he can sort of work his way in to the mix. But look, I know it's a bit of a different show for me to like go through these Steelers photos as the guys walking up to camp. We haven't really seen anything on field yet or anything. But it's just been interesting, as I said, like as we were hearing these different press conferences, hearing these trends, how these guys can explode. As I said, we just talked about 3 additions to the team this year as well. Not even the rookie guys. So setting aside undrafted guy like Benny Bishop, to putting aside Roman Wilson, putting aside Ryan Watts, the 3 additions in Queen, Patrick Queen, Deshaun Elliott, and Dante Jackson. Those guys look good. Those guys look ready to go. Those guys sound ready to go. You expect that of them being those veterans and a couple of guys having really decent contracts there. But it doesn't always happen. And I don't know. I just think these guys all look more athletic, look more mobile, look more jacked. It's not just about mass. And I think that bodes really well for where the Steelers are heading in the season ahead. But let me know in the comments, what did you think from the opening day at camp? What are you looking forward to seeing over the next few days? Let me know in the comments. As always, go Steelers.